I guess today's it's interesting when I initially log in, sitting down, having some coffee, gonna go over some stuff, and there's some kind of reference of Israel, or I don't know, some other thing. The one that I saw initially today was Netanyahu saying something to the effect of like, Jesus Christ can't accomplish anything in relation to world powers or anything like that. And then he makes reference deflecting what world powers are as opposed to Israel being the one manufacturing through world powers. And there's just so much, like right now I'm looking at my coffee and I just want to chill. And so I don't really want to go into a whole theory exchange here, but there's just so much wrong with that approach, because what he's trying to say, for one, the very Hebrew practice, the Hebrew text, is to transform systems in these other approaches. And there's this verse. So initially what came to mind was, it says, "It's not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord." I think it's like Zechariah 4:6 or Zechariah 6:4, something like that. One of those. And basically it's talking about this spiritually transformative movement on the world stage. And there's also this occurrence this interaction that comes to mind where Satan is out in the wilderness with Jesus when Jesus is spiritually seeking guidance and fasting. And then basically offers him saying, "Oh, so I hear that you're interested in the world kingdoms and dominions." And basically from Jesus's perspective, there's this recognition of a spiritual transformative stage of interaction. But the devil is basically seeming to recognize that, the character at this time, the story, and basically says, well, I have dominion over them. And so if you really want them, then you'll just worship me, my methods, my mechanisms, and then you can join in and be a part of world dominion. Basically, obviously, Jesus isn't doing that. He's seeking to transform those approaches, that dominating, improper, corrupt system, Babylon at the time, right? So there's just this whole thing where he can't even make reference to the scriptures then if he's taking an approach that's entirely anti to what the scriptures distinction even is, which is the spiritual path and way. But then what he also seems to fall in error of is the idea that there isn't any level of defense or anything like that. But what he, along those lines, also as manipulating and seeking his own type of power and improper approach to God, it's not as though he's making this reference. It gives this false appearance that it's on par with just utter force, utter might. Like we have to have more might and more power than these other groups. It's not even just that. They give this false reference that it's that. But what you start to find revealed is it's all the stuff behind the scenes, that systems develop in these powers through these other mechanisms, through the market, through the scheming, through the whatever. Whenever there's these improper approaches to not really relationally developing and not really creating a proper just system, it morphs into some of these other approaches. And that's not to say that there can never be, in a healthy functioning society, that there can never be levels of defense or security or things like that, but that there's a level of justice to it. You don't find any of that as being what Netanyahu is making reference to. What we're starting to find out more and more is that Israel, I'd rather say almost like Israel Babylon, because it's becoming confusing to say like Israel, which Israel, Israel even occupies its own. It's not in the spirit of Israel. What you're finding is there's all sorts of deception. Even if it was the sense where there wasn't violence on the world stage, that is the trajectory of the driving force. The problem with them is it's very exploitative. It starts with deception behind the scenes. It's deception, lying, scheming, cheating. It's a corrupt system. It's all of these other things. Even questions of outsourcing, forms of increasing types of torture and implicating other groups by refusing to allow other groups to live in peace, by generating wars and battles and intertwining people into all of these forms of corrupted negotiations and leverage, and just so much covert corruption. And so a lot of times they're not developing their approach by direct not always by direct dominance. It eventually leads to that. It develops that. But it's all these deceptive lies that lead up to this. And then it's excuses and false propaganda for violence. And it's never properly directed. There's nothing in it that's transformative and useful. There's no claim to it that would be a sense of, say, hey, if we just have this more might and more power through these deceptions, eventually we'll get rid of the threat or the enemy. There's no way to ever do that because they're generating the threat and the enemy. They need that excuse to keep going so that they can continuously prop themselves up, as opposed to actual spiritual values, transformation, healthy functioning system, universal human rights, all of these other mechanisms.